Hi, welcome to my garden again, and today I think we have a really fun subject. It's got crystals, it's got how we feel, it's got dealing with intuition, it's got a little bit of everything. And it's called, Which Claire Are You? Claire, as you hear, most people hear Claire first in front of Clairvoyant, which is the means seeing, and voy meaning the word to see. And clairvoyance means that's like, well, really when you see a spirit, or you see something, or you see in your mind's eye, what comes in through your third eye, you see the whole image of what's happening. And it's really comes down to how you receive energy. Now, people who are very visual will tend to be a little more clairvoyant, but that's what that means, clairvoyant, and it means your mind sees in a quick flash something that's either going to happen. You'll hear readers say, I got a flash on this. That means they got a clairvoyant vision of what was going on. There's clairaudience, which is when I talk about that I hear a voice and it tells me something. That's clairaudience. It means oral, audio, hearing, response. Sometimes it sounds like words. Sometimes it can be music. Or I have a close friend who, on the days that something spectacular is going to happen to her, she hears an old-fashioned doorbell ring like was in the house when she was a small child. And it's actually, she wakes her up out of a deep sleep early in the morning. And that means that something's coming her way that day that is important for her to know. And it's kind of an interesting story. I called her the other day because she and I were working on something that I'll tell you all about later. But we were working on a design, and it ends up, she designed the perfect element when we put it together with some other pieces that have to do with crystals. The symbol she picked and developed and got to fruition that we're using in our first go-round on this was exactly what we needed. And when I looked up the symbols of the chakra, she picked the exact right symbol for the chakra. So I called her up and I said, did you know that was that symbol? And of course, at that point, we were still brainstorming and hadn't come up with how we're going to use chakras and basic elements in this project that has to do with crystals. And she said, no, I've never seen that. So I sent her the graphic that I'd found, and she said, oh my God, that's exactly what we'd come up with. And she said, that's so weird. And I said, why? And she said, because this morning my doorbell was ringing. It woke me up this morning. And she always says, gee, I wish I could do the things you do. And I've been trying to tell her she's really channeling stuff and she needs to acknowledge it. She goes, she just kept sending me yesterday, that's so freaky that I came up with just the right thing. And I said, it's not freaky, it's what you do. Accept it. That's clairaudience, is hearing her doorbell. Clairsentience. Clairsentients are empaths. They're people who know feelings and know how a person feels inside, even without them telling them. A lot of caregivers, a lot of doctors and nurses, a lot of teachers are extremely clairsentient, and they almost know what someone's thinking before they get there, which can be very useful in their careers. The thing that clairsentients need to learn, though, is what's me and what's them. And so that I can own what I am and I can understand who they are, but not take that so to my heart that it affects me. There are people who can do that and get overly affected by clairsentience. I had an experience where as a young man, I used to read every once in a while. He'd come in the wine bar. He's become a good friend. And he stood up and I said, do you have a stomach ache? Because I knew the stomach ache I had wasn't my stomach ache. It was, that wasn't that kind of pain. And he said, no, honey, I'm just fine. I'm fine. And I said, well, all I can tell you is if your stomach starts to hurt, you get to a doctor like right away. Well, he came back 6 months later, and he was not the burliest of human beings in the first place. And he came back in and he was skinny. And I said, what happened? I said, hopefully you didn't go on a diet to do this. And he said, no, life did it to me. He'd gone on a trip. When he came back, he started having these weird stomach aches, and they thought it was stress. So they were treating it with all the anti-stress stuff and all of the coat your stomach stuff. And finally, he was losing weight, and he got so sick of doctors thinking it was all in his head and it wasn't real. But he was really in pain, and he collapsed at a friend's house. And the friend fortunately lived right down the street from a Doc in the Box. So he bundled him up in his car, took him to the Doc in the Box, and said, my friend's just collapsed at my house. He's conscious now. Do I need to take him to the hospital? What should I do? And the doctor looked at him and he said, well, what's been going on? And he heard the symptoms. And it ends up, this was a doctor who'd been Doctor Without Borders, and he'd been in tropical climates. And he said, you don't have a stomach ache, you have a parasite. He had a 26-foot long parasite. Yeah. And it made his stomach hurt, weirdly enough. So that's clairsentience. Clairalience is something I've never had an experience with. And that means clair smelling. It means that you're smelling something that physically is not there. You'll see in a lot of ghost hunting shows where they'll smell tobacco or food cooking in a place where food used to be cooked, but there's like no kitchen left there. Those are clairalience. And I honestly have never experienced that, but I know people who have. And a lot of times I was talking to a friend today, and she said her one grandmother wore a particular perfume, and she smelled whenever she smells her grandmother's perfume, it usually means a certain sort of set of circumstances is heading towards her. And it's either grandmother warning her or her senses warning her that it's something like dealing with her grandmother that she needs to watch out for. But that's clairalience, and it's strongly linked to past memories. If you watch ghost hunting shows, which some of you may or may not have, a lot of times they'll talk about how they never wear perfumes, they never wear anything like that. They try to be as stripped down as they can so that if they're smelling anything, it's from the atmosphere and the environment, it's the energy that's there, it's not them. And there's Clairgustance. It's Gustence, and I'll put the Clairs down below in the description. That's clear tasting, and that's when you taste something without a physical source for making you taste it. And that's very similar to clairalience. Like in ghost hunting shows, people aren't usually eating a whole bunch, but they may taste salt sea air in a place where there's no salt sea air and find out there was a person there who had sailed on the ocean and their spirit tended to be around, and they picked them up that way. That's another thing I've never done. I've never tasted anything. I got fat the right way, man. I ate every bit of it, and it was all really physically there. And then there's claircognizance, and that's really what I do. And I didn't understand it when I was little, but it's knowing, it's knowledge. It's knowledge about people or events that you should have no information on, no real, true information on. And it's like people used to say, they say, when you lay out the cards, what are you seeing pictures? What are you seeing? And it's really like I have a book in my head that I read, and now I'm retelling that book to you. So it's like I know it in my head, I just know it, and I have to try and explain it to you and to make it sound like, and sometimes when you're recalling a story, you don't recall all the elements in the right way. It can be kind of scattered, but we really do, at least I do in my claircognizance. It was a problem because I'd always had it all my life, and nobody ever said stop doing it, so I never stopped doing it. But when I went to college, I got overloaded, and for a couple months, my first year in school, it like shut down. And I didn't just know about everybody, I just didn't understand about everybody. And it's hard to explain to people who don't do it, don't have it, but it was like I felt like I'd lost one of my senses, because in actual fact I had. And then I would rationalize it with, well, you grew up from 0 to 18 in the same town. It wasn't that big of a place. You had older brothers and sisters. You had younger brothers and sisters. You had a lot of connection to a lot of people. Of course, you knew about people, but that's not what it was. It was something very different. So claircognizance is just, if you just know, I know. And okay, now, how do I decide what thing I have? Well, I think if you have Clairalience or Clairgustance, you know. I mean, you know if you taste the stuff that in there, and you know you're smelling stuff that isn't there. But the other clairs, they're really kind of all mixed together. You'll have an experience of just knowing something, then you'll have, maybe occasionally you'll hear a voice. But if you want to focus in on which clair are you, the best thing to start with is a good chunk of quartz. It doesn't have to be this big. This just happened to be the easiest one for me to keep here to grab for this presentation. And you hold it in your receptive hand, which is, if you're right-handed, it's your left hand. If you're left-handed, it's your right hand. If you're ambidextrous, pick whichever one you feel the most weight and connection to the stone. You get into a quiet place, and you can even use some of the soundtracks for the meditations that are just sound, if you want to blank out the rest of the world, so you can just kind of feel, and then go through your body, do a body scan. Think about the top of your head, think about your third eye, think about your heart, and see where information's coming to you. Ask the universe to help you understand. And you'll get an answer, and I can't tell you it's going to be, because I don't know which one of the ones you're going to have. You're going to hear it, you're going to see it, you're going to have a flash on it, you're going to feel it as if you were feeling someone else's emotions. They're telling you you're an empath, and that's what you do. If you get a lot of weird smells, then that's maybe your thing. If you get a lot of weird tastes, then that's your thing. But that's a way to start opening those doors and trying different paths and different ways to work. But the fun thing is, when you're dealing with crystals, get them all over here, you've got a whole lot of interesting crystals you can use if you think I am a this, okay? So I went looking on the internet to find out about what they had to say about the different kinds of clairs. And I may just type this up on a document, because I'm not going to type it on the bottom of my show description. It's going to be way too long. But I went through and I looked at a lot of different sites and found out crystals that work with different sorts of the clairs. So when I looked for clairvoyance, and that was the one that had the most, you could find tons and tons of people, and they all sort of agreed. At the top of the list was amethyst, which I thought I put it on here. Hold for 1 second. Where'd it go? Dead air, how rude. Okay, and I don't edit my tapes, so you get to watch that. This is a lovely piece of amethyst that it's got copper on the outside. It was part of a geode. It was broken up. It's got beautiful points, and this would be a wonderful crystal if you wanted to check your clairvoyance. Amethyst actually shows up in almost all the clairs, but in this case, you would focus on it and say, what are my gifts? That could replace the quartz if you wanted to do that. Labradorite is back here. And it doesn't show well on the screen, but it's got a lot of beautiful colors, and you can find some that have a lot of really beautiful blues and purples. It helps you with visual. That seemed to be the method that most people seem to agree on, that it helped with visuals. Aquamarine, which is a beautiful light blue, It calms your mind. So if you're having trouble trying to focus in on it, if you hold a small piece of aquamarine, you get some small pieces. You can get a whole bag of small pieces for $6, you know. If you look around, that's a place to look. The opal is for clairvoyance and sentience both. Opal is a very calming, beautiful stone. It looks kind of mystical, actually, and it can be a really neat pocket stone, but it's for people. It's kind of pretty. If you see the blue stripe, oh, it's coming out too light. You can't see the stripes, but it's a really beautiful white with blue stripes in it. It's very calming, very lovely stone. The fluorite, which is, if you know anything about my show, you know it's one of my favorite stones. This is an octahedron. This would be good for opening up, working with your heart chakra. It's, fluorite works with the third eye. You can get fluorite that's purple, which goes more to the third eye color, but the green one would work just fine. Then there's celestite, which is a beautiful powdery blue. Here it is. See, I have all these things back here. It's a beautiful powdery blue. It's a very soft stone, so don't carry it around. I made the mistake of carrying it around in my backpack for a while, so it's not nearly as pointy and as shiny as it used to be. But if I soak it, I can really clean it up. And it's beautiful. It's got such soft energy, and that's what it's for. It's for conversing with the angels. That's what you do with that one. Moonstone is the moon and intuition, and moonstones are white, and they look very much like moonlight, appropriately named. Oh, tiger's eye. Tiger's eye. This is a beautiful tiger's eye orb, and what I like about it is it has every color of tiger's eye you can have. It's got the blue on this side, and it's got the brown that we think of most traditionally with tiger's eye, and I keep it on a little, they make wonderful little orbs. I keep it on a little orb like that, back with my display of crystals. Tiger's eye brings positive energy to the earth. So if you're trying to figure out how do I relate to the universe, how do I bring energy into the earth, how do I bring it into me, tiger's eye is a good one to hold. Shugalite promotes awareness. I don't have any Shugalite, so you don't get to see that. I also don't have any Moldavite. It's to connect your higher self with your guides. Moldavite's an interesting stone. I think that's the one that was created by a meteorite that hit the earth a long time ago. It's kind of like shungite, the stuff in China that makes buckyballs. But there's a lot of fake Moldavite. So if you go to a really good dealer, that you're not just an online, and not that some of the online dealers are very good, but make sure that you don't go back and look and find out they have a track record of selling rocks that aren't the right rocks. Okay, so that's fine if I want to see. What if I just want to hear? What if I just want to have a long chit chat through my ears with my guides? There's an interesting kind of quartz. This one is not exactly what it is. And you can see there's other inclusions and like other planes going through it. That's called phantom quartz. Phantom quartz also is sometimes quartz grows with other stones and you'll actually see the other color quartz in the middle of the quartz. It's like a rock in a rock. Those are called phantom quartzes. And they're stone and stone. They're very good for developing clairaudience. In other words, a thing inside a thing is an issue there. Clear quartz, once again, the all-purpose genie of how to get into this stuff. Selenite, which I happen to have a selenite tower right here. Selenite is another one that's really good if you want to just work with the hearing. It showed up more. It did not. I would think it would work with clairvoyance too, but just that's not what people say. And then if you have any of these spare, I don't have one of these to show, but if you happen to have a spare one at home you want to lend me for a while, sapphires have a really good vibration for helping you get messages on how to reach your own potential. Don't send me 7. You can actually get little raw emeralds, garnets, rubies, and sapphires, raw ones that are very rough looking because they're not gem quality. They would work. It doesn't have to be a super cut stone or the Hope Diamond or anything like that. Okay, Clairsentience. This is pink tourmaline. Tourmaline grows in the vents of volcanoes, and I showed you a big chunk of my black tourmaline that's a guard stone at my house, guardian stone at the doorway. But this has little tiny veins of pink, and they're a beautiful shade of pink. Sometimes it's called watermelon tourmaline. It and another blue tourmaline that looks just like this, but blue in the stones. Those two are very, very good with dealing with clairsentience. And clear topaz was the other one that that wasn't already included in the other things that they said works really good with developing your clairsentience. Clairalience actually had quite a few stones, most of which I don't own, probably because I don't do it. But indicolite, aragonite, K2. K2 is actually kind of marble. It actually does come off K2 mountain. I have a friend who's got a chunk of that. But the easiest to find by far, if you want to work on honing that skill to do some meditations on it, is lapis lazuli. You can find lapis pretty much in lots of places, and lapis helps you communicate. It's a beautiful stone. They're lovely dark colors. They actually, a lot of lapis has gold, little bits of gold in it. It's just there's not enough gold that it makes it worth breaking up the rocks to get it. And then there's a stone called a pietersite, and it's Pietersite. And what it is, when I looked it up, I said, I don't think I've ever seen that stone. I have. I've had agates that have there's clear stone, and then there's agate stones through it. I had a fire cherry agate that had beautiful red lines in it, but it was if you held it up, it was translucent. There are parts of it that were translucent. That's sort of the formal name is pietersite. Anyway, that kind of closes off the aliens. So there's only really 5 crystals that they list there. One of 2 of whom I've never seen before. Then, if you want the Clairgustance is blue apatite, and that apatite is not spelled like what you eat. It's spelled like Apatite, and it's a beautiful stone. It's kind of got a rough surface. They come in sizes that make them easy to carry in your pocket. They're a very soothing stone. And then you get back to the topaz, and then, as always, the citrine is included in the foodie one. I don't know why citrine more than any other stone, but it showed up in a couple different sites. And then black tourmaline, as opposed to, for clairsentience, it was pink and blue. I guess if you're tasting it, you don't care whether it's pink or blue. Claircognizance. Purple, I found a beautiful stone. I'm going to go find one when I figure out a way to use it. Purple scapolite, magnesite, blue, none of these are easy, guys. Blue shattuckite, iolite, and then the best thing they said for claircognizance is a chunk of a amethyst geode. Now, there are amethyst geodes that are so big, you can sit in them. And I've seen one, and they're called dragon's eggs. And in Australia, they have a park that's full of them, which I think would be an interesting place to go energetically. So how do we sum all this up for you? There's lots of different ways to use crystals. if you're, oh, this is a quartz you can use too. It's smoky. It's smoky quartz, and you can use that in any of these. They're all very good for it. I'd say, you know, if you want to go on the adventure, start by learning how to calm your mind, focus, and see how you sense the images. Now, if you're working with the stuff already, you may already know which Claire you are. Or my experiences that were really kind of a mixture of all of them. But my friends who are artists who are very visual, they will tend to say things like, I see this happening, meaning, or I hear this is going on. That's a clue to how their mind processes this stuff anyway. And that might be a way to help you figure out what you're doing. Which sense do you use that you use consciously, and then project out from there. So that would be kind of my answer to all those things. There's some beautiful stones though. This is a kind of amethyst that's made into a pillar or a tower or a wand. And those can be very powerful if you're using them, if you're trying to direct energy for yourself. But just go ahead and try. See what comes up. See, maybe one chakra you'll find works better than another if that's where you have to go, chakra colors. But that's kind of it. I'm sorry I missed the last couple of days of, I know I missed Friday night. I got my second COVID shot, and it's not horrible. It's not, I mean, nothing like, I didn't have a lot of pain in my arm, but my one arm sort of said, I don't want to move a whole lot. So I kind of gave it a break. And anyway, I will talk at you later. I look forward to hearing your comments, your questions. This actually, somebody did write me and say, how do I know how I connect? And a lot of people say, how do you connect? And what do you see? What do you do? And now you know I just read a book in the back of my brain. But I hope this gives you a little more sense of how you can use crystals in your life and how you can use what we do, the world of woo. What kind of woo are you? Which kind of Claire are you? How do you feel things? And once you get more used to the idea about energy, then you're more open and you can work with it from there. Anyway, I look forward to hearing your comments. Thank you for coming to my show today, and I will see you in the